ahead and dive into the conversation. And the very first question, people often see a man's strength, but what part of your story are they missing?
I like to start off. I think the pit part that's missing is what built it up, right? You know, everything starts with a foundation. A lot of times, you know, a person's foundation is hidden from public view. You know, we was just back there talking, and I was listening to a lot of the men, and they were speaking about their foundations of where they started out. Same thing for myself, right? Um, Church, family, friends, the schools we went to.
So mine would probably be the fear. We always think about a man's strengths and how he can provide, but what do we really know about what a man fears? And most men, it's not like we're afraid of spiders or bugs or something like that. It's fear of failure, failing our kids, failing our mothers, failing the people that depend on. Us. So that's what personal experience that I know most men hide more than anything else.
I can agree wholeheartedly, but I would add that also, I struggled with a lot of things when it was about establishing my manhood, especially young. But then when my first child came along and I became a father, priorities changed instantly.
I like it. Okay, then. Those are some really great answers. And yes, I am a firm believer in crying because I feel like the tears actually water said flower. You can't grow without water. So allow that natural water to actually help that plant grow. All right. So as a man, do you feel pressure to be perfect? As a husband, a father, a provider, protector, or leader? And how has that pressure affected you as an individual?
Yes, absolutely. Um, and it couldn't come at a better time because it's men's mental health, and it triggers us. Well, let me speak for me. It trigger me every day. Kind of piggybacking what he say about the fear of failure, what society has deemed what a man's supposed to be, as far as the leadership, the protector, the provider, and so forth. It's constant pressure as soon as you wake up and say your prayers until you lay down and say your prayers. So, and it's always enhanced by today's society from when you log on, from the gossip, from everything around you, and sometimes it's from your own partner. So, it's best that you stay prayed up and stay with a great group of individuals who gonna uplift you 24/7. Because sometimes people don't know the pressure that we deal with, other than people that's like us.
Okay. Now you saying perfect and pressure, right? Okay. We'll never be perfect. So whoever looking for us to be perfect, perfection is not in us. We weren't born in perfection. A lot of us, I don't know about these other young men since I'm the oldest one sitting up here, but I was born at the end of Jim Crow, and I didn't see a perfect man on either side. Okay, I grew up in a house that wasn't perfect because I grew up without a father. My father died when I was very young, and I had a mother that was sick all the time. So we struggled. So we didn't see perfection, but we saw love. Now, love and perfection are two different things. Love would cause you to strive for perfection. So the thing is, the Word of God tells us to separate. I heard you say something about friends, people that you hang out with put pressure on you. So those are the one that you need to cut loose because they don't understand who you are. See, there's some people that you hang with put pressure on you because they want you to be like them, and you're not. I was there. I have, I had them. They caused me to do some things I regret today. But the thing is, I had a foundation. I heard my mother praying every night, one prayer. It was the 23rd Psalm. She said it every night. And the first part of the Lord is, and that's all you need to say. The Lord is my keeper. And you won't fall.
Sure. As a man, do you feel pressure to be perfect as a husband, a father, a provider, a protector, or a leader? And how has that pressure affected you?
Yeah, the thing about that is that a lot of people in general, but mainly when you talk about husband, when you talk about being a father, they expect you to be all those things all the time at once. And that's where, again, that goes to the previous question you asked um, about strength. They don't really, a lot of people don't understand how much weight we bear every single day by trying and striving to be those things. Because you can be a husband, you got to be a husband. We have to be a husband for our wives. Then we got to be a father for our children. And we have to know how to wear those hats. And then we go work. We got to go to work. We got to be an employee, some of us, for, where we work at and do our jobs there. We got expectations on our jobs. Most of us own businesses. We have to be a boss for those people and those expectations. And then if you manage your finances at your house, you have to be an accountant. So I think there is an unknown amount of pressure, like he was saying, that people put on us by wanting us or expecting us to be those things at the same time, all the time, every single second of life. So there is, yes, the answer to the question is yes. However, at the same time, I think communication is key.
Right.
Communication is key, and you have to have those people around you that understand. Oh, wait, I need some time. I need a minute, and that's what I love about my wife and my kids, that we all work together as a team, even though they put those pressures on, whether it's known or unknown. They also know, hey, when I go in this bathroom, don't come in here knocking on on the bathroom
I love
door,
it. So having that time
having
to
a time.
yourself.
So that's my time to myself. Okay, but yeah.
Okay.
I would like to mention, and I'd like to ask the fellas as well, when you talk about pressure, as far as pressure for perfection, I'm pretty sure all of us realized early that perfection was pretty much unattainable. But one of the major pressures that I struggled with as a father was the fact that, again, there are so many things that we're responsible for. And my issue was, and what I really struggled with was that no matter how many of them I got right, as soon as I failed one person out of the however many I had to take care of, if I failed that one person, then sometimes that viewpoint became, well, he's a failure, even though it's only in that avenue. That was probably the most difficult part as far as pressure goes, because it was a pressure to make sure I got it right all the time. And that's when that's when it starts to compound on you that, man, I've got a bunch of stuff to deal with and I can't fumble the football on nothing. Everybody's depending on it. That part used to what really kept me up at night. But I just wanted, because that was my struggle.
Oh, that's good. That's real good. You go ahead.
For me, I look at pressure a lot differently based on how I was raised. Um, Pressure, trying to be perfect, was something that was thrown on me quite early. Um, as a twin and the more mature sibling in the house, mama looked at me as I got to get it right. And I couldn't do no wrong, but my brothers could. And to be honest, it actually helped me. When it comes to pressure, when it comes to being perfect, I look at it differently. It has molded me to the man that I am today. And I'll be honest, I do strive for perfection. But I also remind myself that I am imperfect. And with that comes a lot of humility, being humble. And so, you know, I do have two boys that soon be going to college, and I have I have since told myself that I have to show them where I'm not perfect at. Because a lot of times as a father, You know, you got people watching you. You always want to do right. You always want to do pick the right choices. Never let them see the bad things. But I also have to remind them, like, look, I may look perfect, but I'm not. And that's been one of my biggest things, just as I've just gone through this journey, is um, just continue doing the right thing, and knowing that you're not perfect, but trying to be perfect has helped me in a lot of ways. Just being honest.
So it sounds like, yes, sir. Sure.
For these young men. And this helped me. Have you ever read Psalms 1? Psalms 1. The tree planted by the river, roots run deep. That's you as a father because of the many things that you have to have. And see, it really shows us two roads. The life of a faithful person. Now, if you're faithful, you can deal with the person. But if you're not faithful, you're withered. Because it said that tree will bear fruit in a dry season because of the root. And see, that our roots run deep because I hear everybody talking, but see, you didn't get here without a root. Somebody in your life planted you. And that's the reason we're sitting here today trying to talk to everybody else. Because, see, as a father, I had two girls. I didn't have a boy. I had two girls. And my oldest daughter, when she got old enough to talk, she was perfect. She was perfect. She could find a flaw in a fly. And so I had to be careful. But I wasn't perfect. I drank, I gambled, I did a whole lot of things. But she never seen it. She thought it. And see, the thing is, we have to be honest. That's when I said you have to be honest with yourself. Sometimes we have to go back to that tree and see if in the water right. And that's where we are.
So we got to get back to that tree to see if the water is running because perfection is not a thing in real life. You had something you want to say, Mr. Martin? I
Oh
saw you
yeah,
grab the
yeah,
mic.
yeah. I want to say something real quick. I grew up thinking that I wasn't perfect, right? We were raised believing that we can't be perfect. However, I was raised by a family that served in the military. My family has served in the military since the Civil War. And we believe that you can be the best you can be, right? You're not striving for perfection. You know, our Jesus is perfect. But however, you are you. You can be the best you can be. You may not go to college. You may not go to this. You may not do this thing. However, what can you do to be the best you can be? And right, that is a pressure that is placed upon every member of my family. You have to be the best you can be.
So I do have a question to ask you guys. So who do you turn to when the weight becomes too much? You mentioned your wife and you said you would go in the bathroom and take a moment. So do y'all have someone that you guys can turn to when the weight just becomes too much? Or what do you turn to?
I start first. I start first. I mean,
That's the everybody question.
I start first. Ever since I was a little boy, I always turns to the men in my family, right? I started my father, my grandfathers, my uncles. I stayed on that, right? You know, as I get older and the time goes on, we lose those people. We start losing those people, and I'm starting more nights than in the past. I've started turning to Jesus.
Well, I'll be the first one to be man up to tell y'all to your face. I learned early that I can learn a lot of things from a bunch of different people by observing. So I paid attention and I watched. But when I needed somebody to talk to, I cracked my Bible open because it didn't argue with me. Sometimes you need somebody to just listen to you. And I literally had to go that far to find somebody that would listen to me and not judge me until they heard everything I had to say. That was
Okay, honesty moment. Up until a few years ago, I turned to weed. Wouldn't nobody listen? Like you said, I did have a father, well, grandfather. I didn't have a father, but my grandfather was there, then my uncles. But as far as men go, most of the men in my family were cheaters. They had outside women. I saw it. I knew it. So I didn't really want to talk to them about the problems that I felt I was having. So I started rolling up. Let's be honest about it. I started gang banging, started doing the wrong thing early in life. Then, once I got older, I did turn to God. But it took a lot of pain and people not listening before I got there. Because I would talk to people and then hear it from somebody else. So I can't talk to you no more because everybody know my business now. But like he said, when I'm talking to that Bible, it don't come back. So, you have to go through what you go through. But we do have people in our life, like, again, my wife. When it gets too much, when it gets too heavy, she's there. So, like Pastor said back in the back, you got to have a praying wife. You got to have a wife that believes as much, if not more, than you do. And mine believes way more than I do. I'm just to say it, she's taught me a lot about the Bible. So she is somebody I can talk to, and the Bible is somebody that listens.
Um, Honestly, I kind of don't go to anyone at this point. Um, well, I recently started, like most of us said, going to the Bible, but I can honestly say, um, the people that I felt like I can confide in, is end up being trauma dumping, and then it started being trauma bonding, and it wasn't to putting me in the space that I wanted to be, but it kept me in, I guess you would say, in a gumbo pot of just problems, and we was all just kind of, once again, yeah, going through survival. But now I just kind of, at one point I could say for most of my life I was extroverted, but now I'm kind of find myself being introverted, where now I just find myself just talking to God, talking to myself, but learning to trust or using more discernment of what's being put in front of me, because I don't want to put any more emotions or heavy that we already going through. So I really don't turn to anyone. Lately, I've been finding a new community where I will voice my opinion and we will all kind of talk about something that's going on. But for the most part, I keep it bottled inside until I know I need to just release it. But now I just pray.
For me, and I like to speak for a lot of the young men who may not have found a church or really communicate with God as often. And when things get tough and when it's time to turn to someone, a lot of times I just like to relax, isolate myself, and try to understand what you're going through. A lot of times, we tend to run to people hoping to find an answer, and they may not just want what's best for you. They may want you to do something for them because of your vulnerability. So for me, it's been easier to just sit back and understand what I'm going through and actually dissect what the issue is, because I have different people in my life for every different type of situation that I'm going through. So I'm real big on friendship, mentorship, just getting out and actually finding the people for what you may need at that particular time. Because a lot of times we like to do is we have that one person that we take every issue to, and then you put a lot on their back. You may feel good, it may be comfortable speaking to them, but you need to find the people that you need for each particular situation. It can be from the weight room, it could be from work, it can be father, just being out in the community. It could be dealing with wives, girlfriends, and kids, mom. And you have to know the right people to go to. And I'm real big on looking at their past. What have they done to help them out? Because just reaching out to anyone to get some type of support from, but they haven't walked the walk, you're pretty much wasting your time. So that's how I really like to approach things when things get tough for me, is who has done the work and has come out of it, and then I'll reach out and talk.
Yeah, I think the number one first person I will go to, of course, is God. You know, and sometimes, well, most of the times, it comes quick. Like when you go to him and you're really like, I go to the bathroom, and you're sitting there, you're fellowshipping with him, and you're listening and receiving, or you're crying out, and it's a back and forth conversation. He said the Bible don't argue with him or God. We argue when we talk. We be going back and forth because he gonna tell you. He tells me things that I might know, but I might not wanna go that route. So it's a back and forth with me and my daddy, meaning God. But most times, um, sometimes I don't follow. I ain't gonna even front. I'm not gonna even front. Sometimes I don't follow, and then I have to end up backing up and then following. Um, but most of the times that's where I go because when you're in a household or when you're a husband or when you're head of household or father, and they depend on you for those things, you can't go to your wife because that weakens you in a sense. Or 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 she will go and try to fix whatever's going on, and that's not what we need. You know, we don't need her jumping out of her. And I say this with all due respect, jumping out of her role
I'm listening.
as a wife to try to fix it. So that's why sometimes you can't go to your wife. And I will say this too, which is kind of surprising. My son, he'll be 20 next month. I've actually started talking to him. He's 19 now. He's in college. He's about to graduate college, get his first degree, and we've started having conversations that have surprised me. And it reminds me of things that I've taught him along his time, and that helped me. And I think that's a new thing. We have a strong bond. I love him to death, but that's a new role he's becoming for me. And I get emotional because it's one thing to teach somebody something, but it's one thing to see what you've taught. They can actually regurgitate it. So yeah.
I want to mention something before I hand this back to you. You had
Okay.
mentioned earlier about finding, different people that, can attest to, what it is you're going through and so forth and so on and getting said information. And I'm totally for that. But what I would add on to that would be along the lines of what he said as a caveat. I learned early that if you have information to offer me, I want all the information I can get. And then I'll process and decide what can work because you never know who may teach you something that could change your life. And so I learned to be receptive of any positive information I could get because it stopped being about me. And it was, well, even if you tell me something that may not help me right now, it may help my child to not go through the same thing in a few years. And so, man, if the information's out there, get it and then decide if you don't need it.
Yes. So God, we go to God first from what I'm hearing. Everybody's saying we go to God first. That's what we take it to. And we get that discernment to see who's the next person that we can actually confide in. That's really good. That is really good. So many boys are taught how to be strong, logical, and independent. When and how were you taught to understand and express your emotions?
I apologize for being long-winded, but they touch to my soul because we go back to things that lessons I learned the wrong way because I learned early that I had to be tough and that you got to be able to put a wall up and understand that sometimes even when it hurts, you got to get done what got to get done. What that taught me was that I teach my children now that your emotions, believe it or not, are extremely valuable. But because they are so valuable, you have to protect them. Because in opening yourself up sometimes to the wrong people, you're giving them everything they need to manipulate you or push you in a direction that in your right mind you may not have went that way. So more so than putting the wall up and hiding from your emotions, you come out better learning how to protect them. And I went a long that's went a long way with my boys because now they understand it's okay to feel things. You're supposed to feel things. You just can't always show everybody what you're feeling.
I'll go. Yeah, and I might be a little different from most men, but I learned really early on that it's okay to be emotional. My dad, he would hug me. He would tell me he loved me. I mean, we would laugh. All that stuff. Um, After we talk on the phone, we say I love you. My mom, same thing. So if I had an issue when I was younger. Um, crying is different than being emotional. I didn't cry a lot. Even when I got, whoopings, I didn't really cry. But I did show emotions early on. The thing about it is that it's what you do when you're emotional. And I think that's one thing that we don't teach how to deal with your emotions. Because we're taught to be tough, when we get emotional, that's what comes out. We throw things, we yell, we scream, we fight. Those are the things that come along with teaching men, young men, we're talking about boys, that you got to be tough. You can't cry. You can't show your emotions, or when you show your emotions, but then when emotions come up, because they're going to come up because they're human, they don't know how to deal with them. So that's what I've taught my sons is that it's okay to be emotional, but you have to understand that those emotions are temporal. They're temporary. So let's deal with the emotions or deal with your emotions. Talk. What's going on. Let me know what's going on. So I think early on, I say probably the first time I actually kind of lashed out. I was a musician, and it was a lot of things. It was an issue where somebody let me play a song or something, and I was mad, and I was a drummer, took the drumstick, and I went like this, and it went through the drum, and it was in front of the whole choir and everything. And my dad, he was in the back, and he just looked at me. He said, "Come here." He said, "What's the problem? What's the problem?" But he didn't hit me, you know. He didn't, not in front of anybody anyway. But he didn't yell at me. He just asked me what the problem was, and I told him, and he said, now we got to replace the drum because you didn't know how to. You could have asked, you could have communicated that." And this is when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So I think that's one thing that we don't do as men or even as women with young boys when they're doing things. Even if they fall and they cry, get up, you all right, or you don't really ask them how they feel, or at least tend to them for a second and then tell them you okay, it's okay. hmm
So I can say something. I wasn't raised to be that emotional. We wasn't raised to be emotional. We was raised pretty much to be. I didn't know the word for it, but stoic, right? Stoic strength. I didn't really start learning how to express my emotions until I started learning mental health, right? Until became a counselor, I didn't know how to speak about my emotions, right? When I was being trained to listen to people's emotions, that's when I started learning how to deliver my own emotions to somebody. However, with that, I found that it's only certain people that I can be that emotional with, right? It's mostly inside of a therapy session. Amongst the family is that is not something that I can do. Even speaking recently, right? Somebody told me they loved me. Emotional reaction.
Okay. Like I said, I had girls, but I had five grand boys. See, a lot of this stuff is generational stuff, and see, it's what been sown not from looking at somebody else, but through the intercourse part of it. That seed, and if you don't know what's in you, then you don't know how to control what's coming out of you. Because I've seen this through my boys, my grandboys. There's one that is totally different from everybody, and his emotions carry big. And I tried to challenge him. Whooping didn't do it because this started when he was young. You could see it. You could see it. It started when he was young. Whooping didn't do it. Punishing didn't do it. It didn't matter. He would tell you, it don't bother me. It don't bother me. He would. I would get called to the school 4 or 5 times a week. And the last time they called, he threatened his teacher. He in his third grade. She's she hysterical because he said he was gonna hurt her. 7, 8 year old. And I picked up my daughter and we went because at the time she was separated from his father. And it's never happened in my family before. We didn't carry those things. And it just, and his other two brothers, totally different. Sometimes it's the seed. And you got to know. And see, that's what, see, the thing is, I don't want to get too technical here, but Deacon Holmes hit me on the shoulder, one of my deacons there, because he know I go. See, that's the thing. You got to know who you're fooling with. Huh? Amen.
All right, you got to know who you fooling with. So, on that note, I do have a question in reference to co-parenting. I did hear that some of the guys on the panel is not married, but they have kids, and we also have some who divorced and things of that nature. So, from a father perspective, what is it like to co-parent with the mother of your child slash children, and how does that relationship affect your mental health?
You gotta know who you're dealing with. Amen. 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 I co-parent. Hey, um, I co-parent right here in Russell County, right here in Russell County, y'all. So it's not that difficult for me as opposed to a lot of dads, right? Where who's co-parenting out of state, maybe out of city. My daughter lives in the same zip code I live in, right? So a lot of things it is easy, and it's easy on my part. It's easy on my part, right? Because I make a lot of time to do things. Right, I go to the schools. I find out when it's available for me to go see her, right? Like I said, at schools, at events, maybe at certain family members' houses. You gotta know who you're dealing with, and I go see her. I go spend time with her, right? Um, Not gonna say too much more about that.
Well, it's funny that we just talked about this because I actually been giving major praise to my daughter's mother. Um, I think for the last month, we co-parent exceptionally well. Some of the gentlemen actually spoke on knowing who you're dealing with. Me and my child's mother, we were bonded about 13, 14 years old, so we literally grew up together. So I know the roots of where she came from. I saw the development of both of us, and I actually had the opportunity to build something with my best friend, which was, as we look at it today, it was beautiful, I guess you would say. But as we grew apart, but we never lost the concept of the child is first. When she was being conceived, no matter what the oath was always going to be, this child is going to be rooted in love, whether we are together or not. Like they say, life started lifing, but the oath was always still the same. We gave it to God, and we definitely took this journey together, which we're still doing. And now we added a bonus to add to it, which makes it even better. Thank God. So I mean, you guys hit it on the head, and like I said, definitely it's been effortless is as far as playing my role because we have a community of love around our child, and not only that, around us as far as the mom and the dad. So the co-parenting has just been exceptional.
I like to touch on it. So I know when it comes to co-parenting and you think of mental health, the initial thought is it's terrible. That's what we all, we typically see on the internet. We see in movies. We just see, just in general, that co-parenting is just a terrible idea. For me, when it comes to my mental health, I've always been the one to accept accountability and knowing what I played to get in the position that I'm in. And I actually had my first son at 18, second son at 19. And We both completely young and emotions everywhere. And so for me, I went through it all. Let me just be honest. I went through it all. One son mom, relationship, amazing. Other one, as bad as you can think is bad, woo was worse than that. And and I took responsibility on why we're in this. How do we get here? And so for me, it was in order for me to get my mental together. Quite frankly, I just had to get some straightened. I think a lot of guys, when it comes to fathers, their mental is so not strong that they're afraid to use their strength to get their mental together. I'm real big on it's your fault. It's your fault, and you need to do what you got to do. That way, you can sleep at night. I had a lot of restless nights because of co-parenting that wasn't where I thought it should have been. So I took the necessary steps to make sure that we can get on the same page. Now, unfortunately, that did take some, slapping on the hand, as I like to say, when it comes to going through the courts, going through lawyers. But after doing what I needed to do to make sure that I can get everything on an equal level playing field as far as us being able to raise our children, we have amazing relationships now. I mean, it went from I really can't stand you, I hate you to now our boys about to graduate and I mean we can laugh, we can kick it, we can enjoy each other. And it did take that rough patch. It did take that rough time, but um my mental was so important to me as I was graduating from college, and I know I got these two boys right here to where I refused to go through 18 years of unstable mental health. I see so many guys go through it, and I got men in my family that went through it, and I refuse to do it. And I would say after going through those tough 3-4 years of court, it's been gravy, and we've been rocking and rolling.
Okay, so back to what Pastor said. Back to what Pastor said. Know who you're with. Um, I would say out of all the gentlemen up here, I believe I have the most kids. Um, and I have the most baby mothers, okay? Children's mothers, excuse me, ladies, children's mothers. Everything was different. Everyone to have so many kids so close together and not having my own mental together was rough. Because if I did for one, she felt like I didn't do enough for them. And it wasn't for me trying to compete that I could do the same for everybody. It was just circumstances. Out of my oldest boys, I had out of all my boys, my first four are boys. Out of those four, they're only 2 years apart, and one is a year apart. So they were real close. All four of my boys were close, and to say the least, everyone was different. And I'm talking about the boys. He wanted basketball, football, construction. Like no one wanted the same thing, so it was a strain because I had to leave this game to get to this game. And if I was late for this game, I got bad talked on Facebook. If I didn't buy the same gift across the board, if that gift cost $10, mine better cost 12. Why hers cost 12 and mine cost 10? Like it was a lot. But like he said, it was terrible for years until it got to a point that I could invite most of my kids' mothers to a birthday party and they'd all sit at the table. And I'll bring drinks to the table and my homeboys be like, bro, how you pulling this off? Because I'm grown now. I put away those childish things. Now I'm taking care of home. It's not just child support, it's me also helping out outside of child support. This little $75 a week that she was getting to me was, you getting this out my check. I'm working hard for this, you know what I'm saying? But then growth, it was, he still got to get shoes. He still got to eat. Still got daycare. Still got this. Still got that. Sports. So it's a lot. And I tell young men nowadays, do not have a child by a woman if you don't know her. Because that's what I did. Two of my boys, no offense, I apologize, but we open were one night stands. I just met them. We slept together in 2, 3 days. Never spoke again until the baby was here. Twice, two different instances. But that's who I was back then. And I did what I could as a father until I grew up more to become a great father to my kids. They call on me now, and like he said, me and my oldest sons, we have conversations nowadays I would have never thought I could have with them. And it's not even sexual, it's grown man talk. Dad, how can I make my wife happy? 10 years ago, I don't know. I ain't make your mama happy. So I don't know, but but now it's son, you can't make her happy. She has to be happy herself, and you can sustain her happiness. Don't upset her. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying you got to. I'm not saying you have to be everything. Just be. She chose you for a reason. You didn't choose her. She chose you. Get that. First of all, get that right. And now that she has you, she just wants you to maintain what attracted you to her. So out of all my boys, I have a couple boys, and they're getting married and having kids and being good fathers themselves and giving me grand boys. And I'm like, okay, now. So sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I was an all right dad. I still had my faults. I still have days that I missed that I wish I was there. But to see the growth in my boys, besides my girls, because I have little girls too, those boys is like, okay, I tried to raise men. I didn't have a man to raise me. Grandmother, aunts, mother, like I said, my uncles, they was out there. I learned bad from them. That part. So now, but it took me to be 36, 37 years old of being non-existent to now being, hey, Dad, I need to talk. What's going on? Hold on, let me walk outside. I'm at work. Let me walk outside. But I make time for all of my children and make sure I'm there for whatever needs to be met. They want more than presence. They need your presence.
Real quick, yeah, I just think again you gotta know who you're fooling with. That's like the most important thing. But at the same time, you gotta we already said it. You gotta know you too. I have an older daughter, my daughter, and me and her mom were just friends. I would see her every now and again, and I didn't know her, um, and it was strained. It still is strained, to be honest with you. And it affected my daughter. But then when I got married, I saw it from a different perspective because my oldest son um, is not my biological son, but he came into my life when he was 3, and his dad, um, we didn't have a good relationship from jump, and I couldn't understand why. You know, so I think that's a whole nother perspective as far as co-parenting, not even with the parent that you're involved with, but the parent that's outside the home. You got to think about that too when you bring in when you're married into a family that are one with a woman or a man that has kids. You have to also deal with that child's parent, and that can strain that relationship. Luckily, we were able to traverse that um, you know you know gracefully. But I think as far as co-parenting, it really depend. It really is about growth. It really is about maturity, and I believe you have to have a plan too. You have to have a plan. You have to have an understanding, even if you want to put it in writing, so everybody's on the same page on what we're doing here, what's going on here, how are we going to make this happen. And with my daughter's mom, I think it was times where I wish my daughter was with me, and that's another thing that I don't like. That I want to be there because I am a protector. I'm her father. I wanted to be there with her all the time, and that's one thing I don't suggest anybody who's ever watching. If you don't have kids or if you're young, don't purposely sleep around and don't purposely have kids out all over the place because it's a feeling of loneliness, or I guess not loneliness, but emptiness. I guess you could say when you can't see your child and you can't be there for your child, and your child calls you and you can't. She's 6 hours away. You can't just be there for her. You only can talk on the phone or a video now. So that's a feeling that co-parenting. It's not about co-parenting. That's just about being a father and not being able to actually be a 100% how I feel like I need to be for my daughter in that time. So
Gotcha. So those are some really good answers. And what I gather from it, know who you fooling with. All right. First and foremost, know who you fooling with. Also take accountability for whatever role you play in said situation. And make sure you have a plan, regardless of what that plan looks like. If it's something that has to go through the court system, or if you are just blessed with a person that you're really cool with and y'all can make it happen. The child well-being is the goal. Not y'all, but that child. All right. So, in closing, remember, strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength is having the courage to face it, express it, and heal from it. I'm Taisha M. Bryant, and I love y'all because I can, and there's nothing you can do about it. Until next time, bye bye.